Hello everyone, welcome back to Apollo Art Analysis. Today we're going to be looking at a piece that kind of sprouts from a rather recent development in art, and that is the liminal space. So liminal spaces, they are normally designed with strange color values, normally kind of surreal placement of setting, and then also it's sometimes it's combined with kind of random objects in the foreground or background that may not necessarily be there. And also another thing that goes with liminal art is also this right here. You'll see not the doorway itself, but kind of this pitch black darkness that has no tone to it, and it just drops out all value of light. So that is also an indicative of that as well. So obviously in our initial introduction, we're met with these copper tones, and we have the light source coming from the right side here. So those copper tones are really important. It flashes here. We have the brightest source of light comes from this side, and the brightest refraction of light is hosted on that surface there. We see kind of the dark facing there as well. And the room, just the room that we are standing in here, is symmetrical, but whenever we start to look out past that, that obviously falls off to something else entirely. So this piece gives us a great example of one-point perspective. And so one-point perspective means that it all goes to a singular vanishing point. So if you were to look at this, you would see that every single edge and every single line in the piece all direct their attention towards the center. And so that's really important because it is a it is a simple yet very harmonious feeling, kind of like if you were standing in the middle of train tracks and just looking directly down there. So that is one point perspective. And of course, we have other things coming out of here, but since we are perfectly centered with the vanishing point, then it can be considered one point perspective there. So whenever we look at the right side, we have our source of light, of course. So what it looks like is we're standing in this room here. Of course, there's a platform there as well. I also want to note that the water allows the light to transfer a lot farther than it would previously. If it was nothing but this type of floor texture all the way there, then I don't believe that the light would be reaching so far. So that's also really important as well about how the water affects the final resulting experience of color value and light value in the piece at hand. So if we look to the right side, of course we have the light value. It looks like we have the room we're in. It looks like we have one more layer, and then we have an outer layer which hits the wall. So that gives us a sense of perspective. It also gives us a glimpse or a kind of hint of what is actually out there. And that makes us wonder a lot deeper, what is out there, and of course, what is down there as well. So switching over to the left side, we see this kind of infinite aqueducts going off into the darkness. It feels pretty unsettling. It feels very strange, and of course that all ties back to that surrealist feeling of the liminal dreamcore or liminal spaces in general. So that's also really important to note as well. So from our perspective, it looks like the balls are like a quarter and then half in between us and the doorway, but what you'll see here is that if we actually count these, so 1, 2, 3, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So there's actually 10. So we can find the perfect middle point here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So right here, if we were to draw a line with that, so we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right there. So that's that middle point. So the middle point is right around there. So what you'll see is the ball is actually even closer than the middle point. So there's a really unique perspective achieved by that of how it shrinks as it goes farther away. So it makes the ball feel almost further away than it actually is. So that's really interesting as well. If we were to look, that actually lines up with about the third curve there, the third pillar of the aqueduct. So this piece is really strange. We don't know where we're standing. We don't know where that hallway leads, but we do know that it is just kind of calling our attention. I would say that this is calling our attention as it is ominous, and it's very strange and almost unsettling. It's calling our attention further deep into the darkness. It's calling our attention here because we don't have any perspective of what goes on beyond out there. And then also this also draws our attention as well because we see the light source and we see what appears to be the outer wall before we can reach the outside. So it's almost as if we're trapped in here, you know? So the balls, if we were to actually see, you know, where they're placed, it feels pretty random. They're not necessarily perfectly split across this middle axis here. You'll see that the right ball is farther away than the left ball. But there's also a really unique thing achieved by how much bigger this ball is compared to this one. So even though that they are at different lengths, it almost feels as if they're balanced. So that's also really interesting to note as well. So like I said before, the liminal spaces in general are places of transition. So that is a hallway, it's a doorway, it is a highway, it's anywhere where you're going to be going somewhere else, so a space of transition. And so if you look at liminal spaces or liminal art in general, you will notice a lot of spaces of transition, because that by definition is the liminal space. And so with this Dreamcore art as well, we've also seen an artist named Jared Pike. He created these kind of liminal space pools, and those just went absolutely viral. We've seen many, many, many renditions created after the fact, and Jared Pike really led a whole new movement within the liminal space area, within the liminal space genre, that is. And of course, this piece feels really reminiscent of one of the Jared Pike pieces that we did as well, with these kind of vaulted aqueducts. So that's also really important to note. And it is highly likely that this artist is creating this piece in inspiration from Jared Pike, with the water and the aqueducts and kind of that liminal Dreamcore and pool tiling feel is there. So that's incredibly important to note, and always want to call back to the original artist who created that. If you're someone who has a lot of dreams, you may notice that liminal spaces come up in the dreams a lot. You know, whether you're running down a hallway or you're running through a forest or a pathway, liminal spaces are really, really, really common in dreams. And so what that says about dreams, it's hard to say exactly, but it's important to note that, and art really helps us bring that even closer. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this piece. The full description is already live. You can check the full writing in the description down below, or check on Instagram for the full piece. So we hope you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you learned a little bit more about the liminal genre and this liminal style that's been happening over the past few years, and hope you learned something today. My name's Apollo. This was Apollo Art Analysis, and I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you'd like to support our work directly, please check out our Apollo community tokens. Apollo Art Exchange is an ecosystem of art appreciation which elevates artists each and every day. Thanks for listening.